Hi everyone and welcome. You're watching Eagle News. I'm Ken Cruz here in Washington. It's Saturday, February 5th, 2022, here in the nation's capital. This week's stories. We're having 6 more weeks of winter, according to Punxsutawney Phil's prediction. Nevada State receives $225 million in bridge funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law. The curtain goes up again for Hamilton at the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles. A protest against COVID health mandates continues in the Canadian capital, Ottawa. The city of Toronto proclaims February as Black History Month. The Philippine Consul General in Los Angeles appeals to Filipinos abroad to vote in the May 2022 elections. On this week's Correspondent at Large, WHO chief says the pandemic is over narrative is far from the truth. Ukraine prepares for a possible Russian invasion. Those stories and more from Thomas Likeness. On window to Latin America, Panama opposes the Mexican ambassador candidate who has been accused of sexual harassment. On Oceania at a Glance, the Sugar Republic Interactive exhibit reopens its doors in Sydney. On Mind Your Business, the tech sector sinks as investors unfriend Facebook. On Embassy Files, the Spanish Embassy in DC presents 50 fotografías con historia. On Health is Wealth, goal setting, honesty, and self-love push a Washingtonian woman to be happier. On Color My World, we'll take you to the Appalicious town of Medina, Texas. Plus, on Behind the Counter, garlic, egg, fried cauliflower rice. Our coverage begins now. We begin with a weather item. How long is winter gonna last? For the answer, Eagle News correspondent Mila Simbulan consults with an underground climate prognosticator, Punxsutawney Phil, and his predictions on Groundhog Day.
February 2 is Groundhog Day. Hundreds of people from across the U.S. and from other countries gather at Gobbler's Knob to join Phil to commemorate Pennsylvania's beloved 136-year-old tradition. Excitement grows as the crowd stood by to hear this year's prognostication. Will there be 6 more weeks of winter or an early spring?
With my shadow I have cast, then a long, lustrous 6 more weeks of winter.
Groundhog Day is a beloved Pennsylvania tradition embraced by Phil's faithful fans from around the world for generations. The annual event dates back to 1887 when a group of groundhog hunters first dubbed themselves the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club and proclaimed Punxsutawney Phil to be the one and only weather prognosticating groundhog. Since then, thousands of visitors gather each February 2nd to watch the groundhog emerge. According to the holiday folklore, if the groundhog sees his shadow, there will be 6 more weeks of winter weather. Should he not see his shadow, Phil promises an early spring. Due to the pandemic, last year's event was the first ever virtual Groundhog Day celebration. It was streamed live and seen by more than 15,000 viewers worldwide at one point. But this year, thousands returned to celebrate the annual event. This is Mila Simbulan, Eagle News, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Thanks, Mila. Meanwhile, expect to see a lot of road construction crews in the state of Nevada. The federal government is giving the state nearly $250 million, as Eagle News correspondent Anna Cui tells us the money will be used to fix for crumbling roads and bridges.
The U.S. Department of Transportation launched the Bridge Formula program mid-January, made possible by President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. In a tweet, Nevada Governor Sisolak highlights it will send $2.7 billion to the Silver State, part of which will be used to repair and rebuild roads and bridges across the state. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Bridge Formula program is a historic bridge replacement, rehabilitation, preservation, protection, and construction program to be administered by the Federal Highway Administration. The initiative is expected to help repair approximately 15,000 highway bridges nationwide. In Nevada, 28 bridges are reported to be in poor condition based on the 2020 Bridge Inventory Report, according to U.S. Department of Transportation. Of the $2.7 billion to be granted to Nevada from the bipartisan infrastructure law, $225 million is allocated to repair bridges over 5 years, $45 million on year one. Speaking of bridges in poor condition, the under-construction bridge here at US 95 and Eastern Avenue in Las Vegas had a partial collapse 2 weeks ago. It happened just ahead of a scheduled demolition work and was caused by a fallen box girder. The Eastern Avenue Bridge is part of the Interstate 515 Bridge Replacements Project, which also includes the Desert Inn Bridge. Funding for these bridge replacements is a result of an award from the Federal Highway Administration Bridge Grant in 2019. The goal is to replace the structurally deficient bridge superstructures and is set to be completed by December 2022. And with the additional funding from this Bridge Formula program, Nevada Governor Sisolak tweeted, "The Nevada Department of Transportation is ready to put these funds to work." Anna Kui, Eagle News, Las Vegas.
Thanks, Anna. Good news for patrons of the Pantages Theater in LA, as Los Angeles correspondent Eli Austria reports the curtain will go up again for the hit musical Hamilton.
This show has been troubled by COVID-19 for nearly 2 years now. Originally, Hamilton was to open in March of 2020, but the first wave of the pandemic put a stop to that. Producers tried again in August of 2021. This time, performances lasted until the last week of December. But a surge of cases caused by the Omicron variant drove the actors off the stage as several cast members tested positive for the infection. Now that case numbers have dropped in Los Angeles County, Pantages will try again. Pantages has scheduled performances beginning February 9th. The limited run will end March 20th when the curtain comes down for the final time. Eli Austria, Eagle News, Los Angeles.
Thanks, Eli. In other news, Canada's capital city of Ottawa is under a state of occupation as protesters, upset with the COVID-19 health restrictions, continue to demonstrate. Eagle News correspondent Andre Lajoie tells us the noise and chaos that go on around the clock is making life miserable for people living there.
What started out as a protest at the seat of the Canadian government has become an occupation of the country capital city. A convoy of truck and other vehicles rolled into Ottawa last weekend, and they are remaining honking horns and disrupting everyday life in the city residents. There is no end in sight. As the weekend approaches, the demonstrators have set up 3 large tents for food and eating area. They are bringing in fuel for transport trucks that remain parked. Supplies and fuel are being brought in on off-road quads to get around police barricades. The majority protesters have left, but a core group of about 100 people remains on Parliament Hill and another 200 are milling around the region. Organizers say more people will join them this weekend. Police are greatly outnumbered. Their role has been largely to de-escalate any violence. Only 3 arrests have been made so far. The downtown core has been virtually shut down since the weekend. A number of businesses closed their doors because protesters harassed their staff. For those living in the downtown area, life has become unbearable. Fireworks, loud music, and horns keep people awake all night. There are reports of vandalism as well. Protesters say this will continue until they get what they want, and to public health restriction. People walking on streets, taking videos and pictures, are having their face masks removed by protesters. Some of the reporters covering the protest disruptions were forced out of the area. All in all, Ottawa is a city under siege by people who claim to be fighting for freedom. I am Eagle News International in Ottawa, Canada.
Thanks, Andre. In Toronto, people are being encouraged to learn about the contributions Black citizens have made to Canada. More on that story from Eagle News correspondent Joshua Santillana.
On February 1st, Toronto Mayor John Tory proclaimed February as Black History Month in the city, in recognition of the history and contributions of Black Canadians. Toronto was the first municipality in Canada to recognize February as Black History Month in 1979, but the history and legacy of Black people in Canada began well beyond those years, where the earliest Black residents were enslaved from 1600s until 1834, when slavery was abolished. Even after the abolishment of slavery and the history of the Underground Railroad, Black people were not treated as equals within the country. To this day, Black Canadians continually face discrimination and racism. Black History Month provides an opportunity for Canadians to learn about the past and present contributions that Black Canadians have made in all aspects of Canada's culture, healthcare, history, and economy. In Toronto, the city is holding several events to celebrate throughout the month, but most importantly, Torontonians are encouraged to confront anti-Black racism that still exists today. This year, the theme for Black History Month is February and Forever, celebrating Black history today and every day. And as stated, even beyond the month of February, Canadians are encouraged to learn more about the heritage and legacy of Black Canadians, to aid in eliminating the barriers of racism that they face, and to promote and recognize the accomplishments and contributions Black Canadians have made throughout history. Joshua Santillana, Eagle News, Toronto.
Thank you, Joshua. As the Philippine presidential election draws near, the country's consulates worldwide are encouraging eligible voters to cast a ballot. Eagle News Los Angeles Bureau Chief Eva Basilaje dropped by the consulate in her region to find out more.
In the heavily populated Filipino-American community in LA, the Philippine Consulate General Los Angeles is reaching out to registered voters, encouraging them to cast their ballots for the upcoming Philippine presidential election.
We have actually the biggest Filipino diaspora, not just in the United States, but in the entire globe. Under our jurisdiction, we have 1.3 million Filipinos, and the majority of whom are, of course, in LA County. The upcoming presidential elections this year is very important. It is a pivotal moment in our history because, as you know, we just went through, or we're still going through, a global pandemic. The economy of the country has been affected severely. So the challenge really is for the next president to make sure that we recover swiftly, but also effectively, to bring back our country into its normal footing. The main challenge is to provide jobs, create jobs, more jobs to our people, and to make sure that we minimize, if not totally eliminate, these ill effects of the pandemic. The voting period actually for overseas voters starts a month earlier than in the Philippines. So overseas, the voting period, meaning the period during which they can actually cast their votes, starts on April 9 up to May 8. Meaning that the registered voters will send in their ballots to the Philippine consulates. The ballots will be coming from COMELEC. COMELEC will be sending these ballots to us, the consulate. We have here what we call the Special Ballot Reception and Custody Group. When we receive all those ballots, they will sort it out and send those ballots to the registered forwarding address of all the registered voters. You receive your ballot from us, not directly from the COMELEC, from us. You will now send it back to us, properly filled out, indicating the candidates that you choose for whatever position, for national position anyway, meaning presidential, senator, and party list representatives. So when we receive all those ballots from all the voters, from the more than 32,000, assuming all vote, then we will assemble them and canvass them on May 9, which is Election Day. Synchronized yan sa Pilipinas. After tallying all the votes here, we will bring the results to the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C., where the Washington will serve as the overall canvasser for votes in the United States. And then it's the embassy that will bring the tallied votes from the U.S. to the Philippines. This 2022, we have registered a total of 37,000. And if we are going by the historical trend, wherein you're only expecting about 15% turnout, then we would be expecting only about 5,000 votes coming from under our jurisdiction. I think that in terms of the actual casting of ballots, the pandemic should not be a problem because you're now just going to send it by mail. But then, even if that's the case, I think there needs to be a more intense campaigning, not just among us as government officials here, but also among the candidates themselves to encourage voters to really cast their votes come election day so that they will exercise the right of suffrage, which is constitutionally guaranteed. In terms of actually casting your vote, did you actually register so that you will really have a say in the way our country is going to be governed for the next 6 years? The vote of the overseas Filipino, whether they're in the US or in other part of the world, is as important as the vote of any Filipino back home. Pareho lang yan. Ang bilang isa lang. So whether you're abroad or in the Philippines, it is important for you to vote, to exercise your right of suffrage, because that is the mechanism given to you by our Constitution by which you can directly participate in the way our country is going to be governed. Please exercise your right of suffrage. Do not pass up on the opportunity. This is your chance to really express your opinion, what you think and who you think should lead our country for the next 6 years. Engage with your fellow Filipinos by discussing issues, not so much the personalities. Ordinary minds talk about people, di ba? Brilliant minds talk about issues.
The prevailing message from the Philippine Consulate General Los Angeles is that no matter where in the world a registered voter is, each vote carries the same weight, which in turn guarantees that every voter's voice can be heard. Eva Pasayaje, Eagle News, Los Angeles.
Thanks, Eva. Is it too soon to lift COVID-19 restrictions? The tense situation in Ukraine, protesters in Canada making life miserable for people in Ottawa, and horse-drawn garbage collection. Those stories from our correspondent at large, Thomas I. Likeness.
Is life returning to normal where you live? Up here in my neck of the woods, Alberta, Canada, the government is talking about getting rid of public health restrictions by the end of the month. This includes the vaccine passport. But is this a good idea? I turn to Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus for his counsel.
We're concerned that a narrative has taken hold in some countries that because of vaccines and because of Omicron's high transmissibility and lower severity, preventing transmission is no longer possible and no longer necessary. Nothing could be further from the truth. More transmission means more deaths.
Many countries have not yet gone through the peak of Omicron, and many countries have low levels of vaccination. So it's not over yet. The situation remains tense in Ukraine. Russian troops parked on the border of the country. Many fear they are about to invade and take over what has been an independent nation. This is what many in Ukraine fear is about to happen. Russian troops rolling into their nation. Some people are so fearful they're taking to the woods on the outskirts of Kyiv. Here you see city folks taking part in a 2-day survival course. They're learning how to build shelters, and how to survive in sub-zero temperatures. And here you see Ukrainian soldiers standing guard over the country's eastern border hoping the Russian military does not invade. Now I want to take you to my country, Canada, where for the past week the nation's capital has been under siege, not by a foreign country, but by its own citizens. A week ago, thousands of people in a convoy of truckers descended on Ottawa, the protesters saying they are fighting for freedom. They named what they're doing a freedom convoy. They're upset with public health regulations, calling these measures by government tyranny. They're upset because, amongst other things, they have to show a vaccine passport to get into a restaurant or other public venues. Some jobs require people to be vaccinated against COVID-19. But are these steps to get the coronavirus under control tyranny? Is being injected by a vaccine like a foreign army invading a neighboring country? Are government efforts to turn the corner on a pandemic like a country trying to take over another? Do those protesting against COVID mandates really understand what tyranny is? You be the judge. As the protest continues, there are reports of vandalism, racist, anti-Semitic, and Nazi symbols being brandished, fireworks, loud music, and honking horns blaring all night. People living downtown can't sleep. Traffic is disrupted. Many elderly and disabled people can't get out to get groceries, and they can't have them delivered either. Delivery services can't bring them supplies because the streets are blocked with protesters claiming to fight for the country's freedom. But what kind of freedom is it when a protest turns into an occupation? Well, let me tell you about an incident on the first day of the protest. Seems some of these weekend warriors discovered the free, that's right, the free in freedom. They got hungry. They decided they deserved a free meal. As they're roaming the streets, they happened upon a soup kitchen run by a group called the Shepherds of Good Hope. This soup kitchen provides meals for the homeless, disadvantaged people. Protesters bullied the volunteers into giving them food. The organization's management found out and put a stop to it, even sent out a tweet on Twitter, the volunteer group saying it's already strained trying to help people who need it, not some ragtag demonstrators roaming around downtown. These tin soldiers should be ashamed of themselves. How is recyclable waste collected in your community? In mine, a garbage truck ambles its way through residential streets and a collector picks up bags of material that can be recycled. In Le Mans, France, they've gone back in time. Instead of the sound of a garbage truck, this is what you hear. A horse-drawn carriage plying its way through the city, picking up waste that can be recycled. It's proven to be a hit with local residents. Many of them know the horse's name. Oh, it's Dupet, by the way. Dupet. Some of them apparently open their windows to say hello to the equine waste collector as it passes by. And best of all, the fuel used to power the horse? Well, that can be recycled too. Back in 7 days, Thomas I. Likeness, correspondent at large, Eagle News.
Thanks, Thomas. The president of Mexico is unhappy with the Panamanian government for its opposition to Mexico's nominee for ambassador to the Central American country. López Obrador compares Panamanian Foreign Minister Erika Moines' opposition to the appointment of Pedro Agustin Salmerón to Holy Inquisition. Last month, Mexico's Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that Salmerón, a historian trained at the National Autonomous University, will be the country's next ambassador to Panama. But some feminist groups, organizations, and people who knew Salmerón have expressed their disagreement and outrage through social media. The former professor at Instituto Tecnológico Autónomo de México has been accused of sexual harassment by his former students. A university investigation found evidence of sexual harassment in one case. It also found a pattern of conduct that led to repeated situations of gender-based violence and sexual harassment in the university environment. However, Lopez Obrador says since there has been no criminal complaint, Salmeron's appointment should proceed. Despite the controversy, Lopez Obrador says he still holds Salmeron in high esteem and considers him as a first-rate historian. Instead of Salmeron, Mexico will propose Jesusa Rodriguez. Rodriguez was a senator of the ruling National Regeneration Movement, or Movimiento de Regeneración Nacional. She is a theater director, actress, activist, performance artist, and civil servant. Down under, now to Sydney, Australia for a sweet story. Eagle News correspondent Shane Reyes tells us about a real-life Willy Wonka factory called the Sugar Republic.
Interactive art exhibition Sugar Republic reopens its doors in Sydney. The exhibit embraces the feeling of nostalgia brought by childhood sweets displayed across multiple immersive spaces. Established in 2018, Sugar Republic began when an old chocolate factory in Fitzroy, Melbourne was filled with treats and other confectionery installations. The idea was to create an artistic and interactive way to celebrate sweets and candy, whilst also allowing the participants to interact with each attraction. Sugar Republic began touring the east coast of Australia, temporarily inhabiting over 2 floors of a heritage warehouse at the Rocks. From swimming in a pool of marshmallows, to jumping out of a life-size birthday cake, to playing games such as Guess the Lollies, to connecting 4 with giant donuts, each display is meant to entice the spectators. With the event being open to ticket holders of any age, the exhibit continues to implement all COVID safety protocols. In observance of health and safety rules, Sugar Republic visitors have to show proof of COVID vaccination, observe social distancing, and wear face masks. Sanitizing stations are ample throughout the floors. Shane Reyes, OceaniaAtAGlance, Eagle News.
Thanks, Shane. In this weekend's edition of Mind Your Business, we take a look at Facebook and what led to the biggest one-day loss in market value of any US company ever.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another segment of Mind Your Business, where we are dedicated to discussing the latest news moving the markets and business trends that could be affecting your workplace soon. The tides of change have come for Facebook, as shares of its parent firm Meta plunged after its earnings report on Wednesday, leading to the biggest daily loss in market value for a single company in US history. Meta's share price tanked in after-hours trading following a disappointing earnings report and a downgraded financial forecast. Shares were down as much as 26%, wiping $230 billion off the company's market value, eclipsing the record once held by Apple's $180 billion loss back in September of 2020. Revenue for last quarter came in at an expected $33.67 billion, 20% increase from the year prior. However, the company's profit margins have lowered, due in part to a multitude of factors including inflation, increasing operating costs, its heavy spending in trying to develop its new metaverse platform, and changes to Apple's policy on collecting data from iPhone users. What scared investors even further was the announcement that Facebook lost about 1 million daily active users between the last 2 quarters. Not much compared to the 1.93 billion users still using Facebook, and 2.8 billion daily users Meta has spread across all of its social media apps, including WhatsApp and Instagram. But it was the first time in Facebook's history that global daily users decreased between quarters, a possible sign that growth of the social media platform has reached its peak. So what's in store for Facebook now and its parent company Meta? Can CEO Mark Zuckerberg find a way to turn the company around and recoup the $26 billion in personal wealth he lost from his own shares sinking? As of right now, analysts aren't so sure. For one, Facebook has an identity crisis. Its users are aging and new users are flocking to its competitors like Twitch and ByteDance's TikTok. While in the past, Zuckerberg has acquired smaller social media companies like Instagram and WhatsApp to keep growing its user base, that might not be a feasible option anymore. Many regulators are now looking at Meta for anti-competitive practices, alleging the company is attempting to monopolize the social media space by buying up all of its competitors. Zuckerberg recently riled the feathers of U.S. lawmakers, with both Democratic and Republican lawmakers accusing the social media giant as wielding too much influence on political discourse. But arguably, the biggest thing going against Meta is its own CEO. Zuckerberg has placed the future of the entire company on VR headsets that will immerse the user in its network of social media platforms, which he has dubbed the metaverse. But here's the thing, virtual reality isn't exactly a new technology. Many optimistic CEOs in the past have declared VR as the next frontier that will save their company. No one has yet to find the magic to bring it to the mainstream user, much less to a social network as massive as Facebook. Now it's possible that Zuckerberg could revolutionize social media again, the same way he did when he first overtook the likes of MySpace and Xanga back in the early 2000s. But with many more competitors trying to become the next social media king, he'll need to find the VR magic fast before more users and his investors decide to unfriend him too. Reporting from New York for Mind Your Business, this is Bobby Soriano, Eagle News.
I'm glad we're still friends. Right, Bobby? At the residence of former Spanish ambassadors in Washington, D.C., visitors have a chance to look at 8 decades of history as seen through the eyes of photojournalists. Bureau Chief Arlene Ocampo tells us more.
The history of photography in Spain in the last 8 decades is presented through 50 images reflecting an era. Hosted by the Cultural Office of the Embassy of Spain, 50 Fotografías con Historia shows photos starting with the outbreak of the Civil War, contributions from Auguste Centellas and Martin Santos Ubero. This was a period when photojournalists were the eyes and historians of what was happening. Photography was used in a variety of ways during the post-war period and the following years, such as documentary and street photography, to name a few. Richard Tere, Ramon Massots, and Joan Colom were contributors. Then there was the Spanish transition, a time where new voices appeared. Alberto Garcia Alex, Marisa Flores, and others. Since 1990 until the present, the explosion of documentary photography remains popular. These 50 individual photographs each have a story to tell. The open-air exhibit will be on display until February 21st, 2022 at the former residence of the Ambassadors of Spain exterior fence. Stay tuned to Eagle News for more from the nation's capital. Arlene Ocampo, Embassy Files, Eagle News.
Thanks, Arlene. I'll most likely pass by that part of 16th Street on my way home today. It was the Scottish poet Robbie Burns who penned the words, "If we could only see ourselves as others see us." In this episode of Health is Wealth, Eagle News correspondent Frendel Verheeren brings us a story about a woman who achieved that when she looked at a photo of herself and decided it was time to make some changes.
How one photo changed her life. There's always that one thing that'll trigger a person to action. Sarah Lakinlale put on COVID pounds, and up until she saw her birthday photo May last year, she was completely oblivious to how her body has changed. Birthday joy and smiles instantly turned into superficial happiness. This photo was the catalyst to change, a change that requires not only motivation but consistency and self-discipline. If you were to ask great athletes, goal-oriented and ambition-driven individuals, there is a common denominator that drives them to thrive: their whys. What has Zara found to help her make the change, and what difference did this change bring? What is her why, and how does this why keep her focused on the path to progress? What did she find? What does health mean to you? Like,
health for me would be being able to be healthy for my family. That's one of the things that my family always talks about is we need to stay healthy for each other. I want to take care of myself. I want to live a long life. I want to be able to be there for my family, my sister, my niece. I want to see them all grow up. So that's really, health to me is being healthy for my family.
That's wonderful.
Last year, sorry.
No, you're okay.
Last year, on my 36th birthday, we took, I was happy. Nothing was wrong. I mean, I did gain 30 pounds and it was tough. But what really hit me the most was I saw my picture and I looked at myself and I said, what happened? Like, I was not happy. I was smiling, but I wasn't smiling. And I thought to myself, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to get back? So I started working out. I said, how can I become healthier? And then I started taking vitamins and I was looking for vitamins. And really, I wasn't thinking about losing weight. I was thinking about what can I do? What kind of supplements can I do to get healthier? And I found one program that I took about 5 months ago. You take these capsules of they're all vitamins. So pretty much it was a vitamin pill and then a probiotic shake and then a patch that has different vitamins in it. So many programs out there, diets, workouts. But for me, it was more about my gut health, how we can work on what's inside of us, and then we can work on the outside. It helped me lose a lot of weight. It helped me clear my mind. I'm more positive about myself. I am not that person that I was last year, May. My mindset has changed. It gave me mental clarity. It made me feel good in my skin. Big, small, medium, square, circle, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Because in the end, I feel happy in my skin and I feel really good with the healthy choices that I've made.
What are the 3 top things that you have done for yourself to stay consistent with this newfound program?
One is setting a goal, something that's achievable. 2 would be really stay true to yourself. Lastly is do not deny yourself of the food you want to eat.
Motivation obviously is helpful, but I'm sure you could agree that it is not the motivation that helps you stay consistent. Am I right? Right, because there are days when we don't feel like it.
I didn't want to, but I need to.
Right.
We don't want to work out, but we do because we know it's good for us. We don't want to eat in moderation all the time, but we do. You do because you know it's good for you, right? So discipline is key, that discipline over anything, self-control, right? So what continues to permit your self-discipline to take over your actions?
My family, my why, my everything. Without my family, I don't think I would get the love and support to be and feel healthier within my body and being able to share that with my family.
Fully understanding your why, your focus, and the how-tos, there is no reason why you wouldn't see the positive change unfold right before your eyes. Health is wealth. Frendel Faharin, Eagle News.
Thanks, Frendel. To Texas now, where we learn about the state's unique take on apples. More on that in this edition of Color My World from Eagle News Texas Bureau Chief Jane Kathleen Gregorio.
In the market for the latest Apple products? Well, the Apple Store of Love Creek Orchards offers a variety of juicy selections, from apple salsa, apple jelly, apple cider, apple butter, apple coffee, apple ice cream, and even a 5-pound apple pie. Located in the town of Medina, Texas, just a 1-hour drive northwest of San Antonio through the scenic hill country, the Apple Store and Bakery has grown to become a tourist destination, drawing hundreds of visitors from all over the world year after year. The Apple Store and Bakery serves not only delectable Apple-themed desserts and gift items, but also home decor, artwork, and a variety of Texas souvenirs.
I have been at the Apple Store collectively 14 years. I started with the original owners. Baxter and Carol Adams were the original owners. They retired from gas and oil from Houston, very wealthy and very generous people. The ranch they bought had an orchard on it when they moved here. And it was a very successful orchard. So they went to Romania, who had our climate and grew dwarf apple trees. So they hired the president of agriculture from Romania to come over and start our orchards. His name was Stefan, and he worked here about 20 years. He finally retired after Baxter and Carol sold the place in 2007 to go. From then, Brian and Stacy Hootzler bought the Apple Store and the orchards and took over. We are famous for our burgers, our 5-pound apple pies, and our apple cinnamon ice cream. And people will tell people word of mouth is our most famous form of advertising. And we have maps put up like on the wall. I have at the front area as well to where people come from, and they are all over the world.
Throughout the year, the Apple Store and Love Creek Orchards host many community events and family fun activities, such as blackberry picking during the summer and pumpkin patches during the fall. The soft serve ice cream is a particularly special treat.
In the store, we always offer free samples of the apple cinnamon ice cream, our apple cider sauce, which is good on apple pie, pork tenderloin, and pancakes. And we also let you sample the apple strudel coffee. Delicious.
So right now we're gonna sample some apple butter, traditional apple butter, which is like a topping for like crackers, bread. So let's take a taste. That is pretty tasty. Almost has the consistency of like a really thick syrup, but with a sort of an apple cider, spicy, kind of a little bit thinner than applesauce kind of consistency. But it tastes pretty good and will go well with like bread or crackers, and maybe even paired with like actual butter. The apple butter, pretty good. So this is the moment we've been waiting for, the famous apple cinnamon ice cream. Got to taste it for the first time with after driving for hours just to make it to the store. Right before it closed, we get to finally taste it. So let's sample it right now. Very creamy. Looks like it has some cinnamon sprinkles on it. Let's give it a try. Really good. You can really taste the apple and the cinnamon, almost like apple pie a la mode as an ice cream. Very good indeed. You guys got to come over here and try it. So I just discovered that there is some hot apple cider sauce here. So I went a step further and added some to my ice cream to get an even more thorough experience of the Apple products here at the Apple Store. So let's check it out. Here's our apple cider sauce with the apple ice cream. Really delicious. You could really get the full experience of the apple flavor, like from the toppings to the ice cream. Very delicious. Next time you happen to be touring through the Texas Hill Country, the Apple Store at Love Creek Orchards provides a refreshing stop for food, family, and fun. Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Color My World, Eagle News.
Thanks, Jane Kathleen. apple strudels sound good right now and just about any time. Time to go behind the counter now with Aika Era. Today she's joined by Ethel Constantino, who will show us how to prepare fried cauliflower rice.
Hey, I'm Aika, and welcome back to Behind the Counter, where we see easy and tasty meals be brought to life. Today, we have a nice surprise of a dish with this low-calorie meal made by our friend Ethel Constantino from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Are you on keto and missing rice so much? Don't worry, cause this keto garlic egg fried rice is so delicious and easy to make at home. You'll need a pack of frozen cauliflower rice, 2 eggs beaten, two cloves garlic, crushed and minced, green onions, chopped for garnish, salt, pepper, and oil for frying. Heat up a pan, then add your oil. Sauté your garlic until brown and fragrant. When the garlic is brown and fragrant, you may now add your eggs. Then add your cauliflower rice. Cook this for around 5 minutes or until dry, then season with salt and pepper. Transfer the fried rice to a serving plate. Garnish with green onions and enjoy! I hope you enjoyed this recipe of keto fried rice. Ethel Constantino, Behind the Counter, Eagle News.
That looked excellent! Thank you, Ethel, for the healthy dish. Check back here for full recipes, and if there's a dish that you'd like to see, let us know in the comments below. Catch us on EagleNewsLive.com, on our Eagle News YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. Check back next week when we go Behind the Counter.
Thanks, Aika and Ethel. Fried cauliflower rice. Sounds challenging, but I'm quite open to some food adventure. View, like, share, and follow our other Eagle News Live online shows. City Limits with Alan Basalyahe. Plate Date with Michael Hudson and friends. Connect with Dr. David. Take a seat and join us with Anna Kui. And of course, Journey, Stories of Filipinos in Canada with Kathleen Cruz. I like your last name, Kathleen. Thank you all for watching. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Eagle News Live. I'm Ken Cruz. Happy weekend, everyone.